All right, so here's what we got here. So we got this guy, these guys. Honestly, you got Mr. Mime and these dudes, and Mr. Mime is now a circle, and this guy is somehow a I got this ass backward. So ass backward. Okay, very well. Very well. And then you can see where I put my other decks over there. Then you can see all the Journey Together, all the art. I think they all come with one of each one of the booster arts anyway. So it's really not that special, I don't think. But what is special is the number of holos that you pull. So if you're pulling all holos that are like this, and you don't have any like holo trainers or nonsense cards, then that indicates that this pack probably has a higher chance of producing what you want out of it. So we'll see how the next opening goes, and then we'll figure out if it's worth opening those up or if it's worth just keeping them for the art. But also, if you look at this, it's almost not worth keeping these for art because all the packs are bent over because of the way that this stupid box is. So we might just open all of them. I don't know. It depends. Maybe I won't open all of them, but it depends on what I pull out of this pack. So if there's something really, really good out of this pack, then we're not going to open those 4 packs because that is where the value is. And that's why I'm actually doing these videos, because say if I do decide to sell some of these and that kind of thing, which I honestly am thinking about doing that. And the reason why is because it's a unique edge that a lot of people don't do in the market. Like this, I just kind of put this thing together, but I have a huge collection. I have over 100,000 cards, okay? So, to me, I don't really, I care about that because, that's going to appreciate in value. It's vintage. But, I also am doing this for fun. And then it's also nice to be able to repatriate my money and see about, okay, how can I go and make more out of it? And it's also giving a blueprint for people to also follow to show how they can sort of develop value from otherwise really new type of sets without doing it in a way that's going to undercut the market or rip someone off. And that's like the biggest thing. If I'm providing a product or something to someone, I want to make sure it's the top product out there. And it's based off of this kind of analysis by opening a couple packs, maybe 2, maybe 3 even, and seeing what's actually in there. And if it's showing a trend, then you could infer that that trend will continue into the other packs. What some people do is they go and they just get these things and they grade them, or they open them up and then they try to piecemeal sell stuff, but it takes some time. You're looking at older type vintage packs and stuff when you're doing that. These brand new packs, however, have a different sort of strategy that you can utilize, and I'm showing that right here. And I think that should be the standard all around for whatever you do, but that's just my sort of hot take on it. So no, I'm not really looking at this as a way that's going to necessarily affect my livelihood. It's something that I'm looking at as making a point, as in terms of creating value for whoever is watching this, so that they can kind of tell what's a good deal, what's not a good deal, and whether or not you should buy or like whatever. The way that I've bought my entire collection, which obviously this is not my entire collection at all, not even close. The way that I did it was just through quite literally cornering a regional market where I just went everywhere and anywhere and just bought everything. And I paid probably, in some cases, 20-30% premium. And it made people happy because guess what? They needed the money, and they also are in business. So if they're running a business or something, sure, why don't I go and buy something? I'll buy it, and then I'll hold on to it. Not a big deal. It's that simple. And especially if I had, especially when I was doing that, I had a significant amount of cash flow, so I could afford it. And I did. So what I'm doing here is I'm showing different types of business models and different types of investment, flipping, and dealer type tactics that you can use that aren't going to be classifying you as a scumbag and as someone who's actually genuinely providing a service to collectors. Now, say I'm a collector and I want to get this entire set, right? And I also want to have an idea that these cards are decent. So maybe I want to buy all the holographic cards and all the base set cards that came with it, and have the original boxes and also the original wrappers. Say, as a collector, I wanted that, and just to have it as part of my collection, maybe I'd be willing to spend $300, $400, $500, $600 on something that's brand new. Or if it's from a longer time ago where it's not in production anymore, and where there are certain cards that people want, maybe I might even drop a couple $1,000. You never know what these things are actually going to turn into, but I have a good idea of what they will, and it'll be decent. It'll be more than decent, actually, in the future. But we also need to see what was actually printed when the dust settles, and this is just brand new stuff that came out last year. It was 2024 when this set came. So it was 2024. I'm pretty sure it was 2024. And you can also see like barcodes and stuff between all of these. You can clearly see all this, and I'm not mixing this together. Like, for example, I know that this is the Surging Spark set. I know this, what I'm working on here, is Your Journey Together. So that's pretty much how that works. That's where my thoughts are. And also, let's take a look at some of this stuff. So I have some first editions here, but they're not in particularly great shape. But I still like them. I got like this base set Charizard. Bought that for a couple $100. Most of these cards in here, actually all these cards in here minus Charizard, I bought for $70 total. Actually 80, because I threw the guy an extra $10 for coming out. I always throw extra, for gas or like whatever, because it's also like someone's time to meet up with you and that kind of crap. So I really don't pinch pennies when it comes to that kind of thing. So, interesting things like this Blaine's Growlithe and Blaine's Vulpix. Now, they might have printed millions and millions of these cards throughout, the time that they were in print. Thing is, most of them get destroyed over that time. Maybe 0.1%, 0.01% are actually remaining that end up in collections like this. So yeah, like this Vileplume's pretty cool. Tabby's pretty cool. I'd say Shadowless Dratini. I've got a lot of Shadowless cards too, it's like, they're pretty cool. So here's what we got. I also trade a bunch of stocks, options, and that kind of shit too. So it's like, this is an alternative investment. You'll see I only put cards in on one side because I want to be able to see the back. Even if they aren't like, obviously these are not PSA 10. They're not perfect. They're not even probably PSA 6. But they're still here, I still like it. It's like what? When Roaring Kitty with GameStop, he goes, I like the stock. I like Pokemon cards. That's about it. I like the cards. I mean, some of these are pretty decent, but you can also see like some fraying here and stuff like that. Let's actually get into like a little bit of this on how people actually grade this stuff. Once we get over to like something that I want to talk about. See, that's from that Black Star promo is from a movie opening. Alright, I'm just like tired on this. Yeah, you can see like, I also hate people who go and like grab it from like here. No, the proper way to turn these pages is like from the top, very gently. Good God. Yeah, all these were from some guy's attic. Alright, so let's go and use Wigglytuff as an example. One, it's not holographic, so that greatly reduces the value. It's not first edition, so you would see the little mark over here that says first edition on it right over there. It's not shadowless. You can see this right here, the border, this over here. That in particular is the shadow, so it's a shadow deck, so you know, they're mostly shadow. It's Jungle Edition, so you can see that right there. Sometimes you can see like, you know, like this is base set second edition, which is something else than base set. But yeah, it's a relatively normal card. So what you cannot see very well on the colorless energy cards is fading. You can see fading very well on the fire type and also the earth type, so, or fighting type is why it's called fighting. So this, you can see the whiteness over there, that's whitening, and that's from people's oils. When they touch these cards, they leave oil residue. This is why I don't touch the face of the cards or the backs of the cards, because the backs of the cards are also important. I'll get to that in a minute. But you can see how that affects the value. And then also centering. So Wizards of the Coast never 100% had perfect centering on everything. So sometimes the way that they would cut the cards, you would see more of the yellow border on the bottom than the top, or the right side would be skinnier than the left side. So the centering also matters. And then of course there are just nominal errors and that kind of thing that you see here and there. Then you can also, you know, you can also see the shadow on top, right over there. So shadow isn't just on one side, it actually starts from there, over there, like that. So, you know, you can see a shadow. And then, okay, let's go back over to the Dratini that I pointed out. That was... yeah, so you can see, first edition, that is first edition base set. First edition base set, shadowless, you can see no shadow on the side over there. And also the HP, I don't know what font that is, but you can see it's thinner and more and much clearer. So that's a pretty cool card. Like, you know, Vileplume here is first edition, not holographic, Jungle Edition. I think they are all Jungle Editions. Krabby is too. But you can also see Krabby's got like some whitening on the front. You can definitely see whitening on the Dratini here. And you can also see some darkening as well. Something with that, and that it's just from the way that they were handled. Now, the back, this is why you need to be very careful when you put these in, because you can see the damage over here, right? And that damage is what knocks off value. So all these factors go into grading, and you can kind of guess that some of it is obviously subjective, especially in terms of the whitening, because whitening can also occur from the manufacturing process. So whenever you are getting a Pokemon card graded, it's not just entirely about how well you've maintained the card. It's also about whether or not the card in its manufacturing process, how it came out at its inception, which is really, really wild to think about. So those are mostly vintage. There's like some that are scattered throughout different eras, but most of that is a vintage binder. This is the newest. Well, I wouldn't even say new. I think the newest sets. I don't really follow them, like I said. I mostly collect those types because, frankly, I think that's where the money is. But I also have fun with like this stuff. You know, if I want to kill some time or just throw some content out there, drop a little knowledge here and there, that kind of thing. What I've done that's gotten me to where I can just fuck around with this. You know, that kind of stuff is what it is. So that's pretty much it.